All right. Good morning, everyone. It's Thursday. I'm so excited to have you guys all here. Um, this morning, our special guest is someone I've known for a few years now. We are actually in the same mastermind mentoring program, and he shared a story recently that talked about a $10,000 mistake when he first started investing in real estate. And he is also a realtor, and investing is a big part of what he does. And so I thought, wow, I'd really love to have him come on, tell us his story about how he made that $10,000 mistake and what he learned from it and how to keep you guys from making that same mistake. I love to learn from other people's mistakes. And so Luis Salavarria is going to share with us all about, how he made the mistake, what he did, and what he's done to avoid that in the future. So Luis, unmute, buddy. It's all yours.
Thank you, Debbie. Yeah. When you introduced me, I was like thinking about that mistake. I still think about it sometimes, but it happened a few years ago. But anyway, so I wanted to introduce myself first. My name is Luis Salavarria. I am from Venezuela originally, and I have been investing for the past 19 years in real estate mainly. I do other things now, but mainly in real estate. Now I do commercial real estate. But at this time, I wanted to talk to you about this mistake that basically cost me $10,000, as you said. So I trusted the wrong guy, as many of you have done, as many of you will do if you don't follow what I'm about to tell you, basically. So yeah, this loss, this $10,000 loss, it came about. I had come here from Brazil. I was actually working in Brazil with my wife, and I had been investing in real estate for 5 or 6 years at that time. But when we came here to the US, I said, I need to break the US market. And I went to one of these meetups, real estate groups, basically. And I met this guy. He said all the right things. He said, he had a group. He said that he had deals, and all he needed was investors, and he had everything done, and all done for you type of thing, right? So I said, great, let's just go ahead and do it. And so many of you, I guess, have been on that path, and it's easy to fall on in that trap, right? And so he pitched a deal. The deal was to buy this house he had under contract, and it was going to be a subject to type of deal. For those of you who don't really know exactly what I mean, it's just basically getting title of that property subject to the existing mortgage. So we did that, and the process was going to be, I was going to be in charge of giving them basically the remodel money, which was $10,000. He was going to do the remodeling, and he was also going to pay the mortgage. Those were the two things. I mean, like, my side was just handing the money over. I was going to be the silent investor, and he was going to be the investor taking care of everything. And he was going to be the active investor, doing the maintenance of the mortgage and the maintenance of the house as well. This was going to be a light remodel. $10,000 actually is a very light remodel. And we were going to split the proceeds 50-50. So that sounded great, right? So lo and behold, he started working in the property, and he spent, I don't know, a few weeks. He was making progress, because I would go to the house and I would see that he was making progress. He was slow, to be honest, slower than I thought it would be, but this was my break here in the US. So I was like, maybe they do things differently here. So I trusted him. I kept trusting him. But then I found out that he wasn't paying the mortgage. And I only found out because of another person. He never told me that he wasn't paying the mortgage. And this was his side of the agreement, and he wasn't doing it. So the bank, in turn, started calling the guy the original borrower, basically. And the original borrower also, panicked, because he wasn't going to get a foreclosure after he had an agreement with this investor. But he wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. And I was kept in the dark. I didn't know anything about this at this time. And lo and behold, again, he gave the keys back to the original borrower after we had remodeled the house and we were just about to put it on the market. And he just gave it back. And I didn't know. This was just like a punch in the face to me, because I realized that the borrower, the original borrower, he got a deal basically where he didn't put any money into his house. And now he got a remodeled house and he kept it, of course, because he had the keys. And I had no contract, no recourse, no way of going back and say, I did this. I put $10,000 in. So again, I got this feeling of sinking because I had made that mistake of trusting the wrong people, of trusting the wrong guy. And it was also at the same time a wake-up call, right? Because, I didn't lose my life over that, of course, although at that time it felt like it. But I realized that what I needed to do was just make it better for myself, make the systems better. It's not really about the opportunity itself. It's not about the deal. It's not about the numbers. A lot of people think that's the way they should think, that it's only about the opportunity, the deal, and the numbers, but it's also about structure. And it's about legal protection. And it's about systems. If you don't have that, you don't have anything, like I did. So basically, I came here, and that loss actually helped me build what I have now, which is basically systems, processes, and all that stuff. And my coming here is also a wake-up call for you guys, because I don't want you to make the same mistake. So I created a newsletter that tells you like the red flags, the criteria, everything that you need to know. And you're going to know about the deals that I'm betting, the deals that I'm investing in, some of them, the deals that I'm not investing, and why not. And it's a weekly thing. It's a free newsletter. You don't have to like sign up and pay anything. You just have to sign up, register, and you get it basically. And it's called Smart Capital Weekly. And that's it. And that's all I wanted to say before you open it for questions or whatever.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Luis. And so, you guys, any of you realtors out there who are also thinking about investing? And so, first thing I would say is, as a realtor, not everyone is going to do this, but I think it's really important to show that you have faith in your own product, whether that means owning your own home or investing in other homes. You hear often that you should be a product of the product, right? And so if you're trying to work with investors, being an investor yourself is a great way to do that, because you learn how to speak the speak, right? What the language really means. Being an investor is very, very different from being a realtor. You have different things that motivate you, that you're concerned about. So being a product of the product is a really cool thing. So I would love for any of you guys to ask Luis questions and kind of get some insight on what he's doing differently now. And so David Cook, I see that your hand is raised, so go for it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Um, the individual who scammed you out of this money,
Yeah.
did you have any legal recourse? Did you try to find them?
I found them eventually, but I didn't have any recourse. I didn't sign anything with him. I trusted him stupidly now. I trusted him. And for me, it's all about integrity, right? So
Right.
when I do a handshake, for me, the work that I do and the handshake itself is just my bond, and that's my word, right? But I guess for this guy, it wasn't. And it was difficult for me at that time, because I wanted to get him to own, basically to be accountable, but he wasn't.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I'm sorry that happened to you. Thank you for sharing with us.
No worries. Thanks.
Excellent, Jackie.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to ask, what was one of the first processes that you put in place after you had that happen? I can probably guess what it was, but I'm curious what it was after
Well,
that happened.
one of the first ones is always sign a contract.
Yeah,
One of the
everything
very
in
first ones.
writing, correct?
Everything in writing, and
Yeah,
everything has to be, spelled out. Don't just assume stuff. Have an attorney look at that contract. A lot of people, I guess, cut corners on this, and like I did, right? If you want to save a few bucks, you just do it yourself. And now with AI, it's even easier, right? All you have to do is just ask AI. But the thing is that AI is just a tool. And if we feed it garbage, it's going to give you garbage back, So the idea to try to do everything on your own is wrong. You should trust the people, the legal side, the attorneys, find a good attorney. And to find a good attorney, you just have to ask, who is the best attorney that has worked with you? And can you recommend anyone?
right. Yeah,
And
Excellent.
do
I would
that.
just say that you definitely want to find other professionals, right? I think it's I think from a real estate perspective, often I'll tell mentees or other realtors, you're a professional. You need to like stay in your lane, act like a professional. You've got to act like a professional, be treated as a professional. And one thing that professionals do is rely on other professionals
Mm-hmm.
because you cannot, like, I'm not an appraiser, I'm not a home inspector, I am not a mortgage lender. Like, I know enough to be dangerous, as you can say, but you need that person who is the expert, right? Just like you're
Yeah.
trying to get your clients to ask for your expertise. And so that's why I think it's really important that everybody has like that group of people that they consult when they do a transaction, whether it be investing or, for your clients. But if you have that core group of one or two attorneys, one or two inspectors that you trust and know will do the right thing, then you always know you have other people to rely on to give you advice, who can actually give you proper advice. So,
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Great point. Thank you, Jackie. All right, Sharon.
First, I want to say thank you for doing this, Luis, because in the real estate investing industry, it is all about how great I am. Everybody's talking about how awesome they are, and
And
you
nobody makes
almost never hear.
mistakes. Have you realized
No,
that?
no,
Nobody makes
somehow,
mistakes.
amazingly, I'm the only one that's ever made a mistake. Weird. So thank you. I think this message is super important, and being willing to share transparently, because we've all done it. We have a saying in my community: you don't get to even call yourself an investor until you've lost money. You don't get the title.
Yeah.
So thank you. I loved the question about so signing a contract and getting a lawyer. I also would say, what kind of contracts do you use? Do you use joint venture contracts now? Do you, because note and deed of trust, or note and mortgage?
So, well, right now, I've used all of those, but right now I'm using more syndications type of contracts because I'm doing commercial stuff. And those are done by attorneys like SEC attorneys, and it's more
Yep.
involved. It sounds scarier, to be honest, but it's just the same. It's just more
It's
pages,
just more
right?
expensive.
And more expensive, a little bit more. but the properties as well, they're more expensive too, right? So if you compare, the amount of money that you will get from a commercial property compared to a residential property as an investor, I mean, right? It's going to be maybe tenfold, whereas you're not going to be paying 10 times the fee for an attorney. You will pay, what they're due, of course, because the better attorney they are, the more handsome that money is going to be. But you're going to be protected anyway, right? So these are the types of contracts that you will want to get in place. Don't skimp on that, for sure. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, for larger deals, that makes sense. I think a lot of people encounter what you encountered, which is just a one-off, and a syndication, for them, is overkill. Right.
Oh yeah, for sure. If you are going to do smaller type of deals like commercials, like not commercial, but like a smaller multifamily up to 4 units, and or single families or anything like that, I would recommend something simpler, like TREC, like here in Texas, for example. That's just like the Texas Real Estate Commission type of contracts, or the Texas Association of Realtors contracts, and you can just use those. There's a lot of stuff that you can use that is already out there, that you don't need an attorney unless you're doing something different. That's when you need an attorney to actually draft that document, right? But otherwise you don't really need to go that route.
Excellent.
Oh,
Thank you. Peggy.
Thank you, Luis, for talking about this. This is, and that you kept going. I talk to people
Mm.
all the time that call me and say they're losing their money and what could I do to help them? So I've put in place teaching people what they need to know and asking the right questions before they go into anything. And when I was a lender, which I'm not anymore, on people that were flipping properties like that, I always had a promissory note and a deed of trust that I recorded against the property, which when you're in the single family world, you want to protect yourself. And the problem that most people have is once they lose their money, they never move forward. So I congratulate you on moving forward, because the whole purpose that somebody actually invested was because they expected to grow, but they didn't ask the questions first. And it's so important. Great. Somebody says they're a flipper, right? Like your guy. I just talked to somebody who invested $100,000. He didn't ask one question. And I don't think the flipper had ever done anything before. They didn't look at the background, they didn't do any of that. And he wasn't the only one. There were several people that went in and they all lost their money because the bank foreclosed. Again, same story that you had. Had they asked 3 or 4 questions, they would never have invested with that person. And it's things like that. That's why we put this what I call the ultimate investment protection system together, because people need to learn the right questions to ask, right? And as you know, every question is different, right? If you're working on a single family, or if you're working with a flipper, if you're in the commercial world, and who's
Yeah.
running background checks? I mean, you don't run a background check. We never invest with anyone without running a background check on them. And that doesn't always mean that it's the right person still. Like, you just never know what's going to happen. So thank you very much for moving forward and making a difference. And now here's the thing that's really great about Luis, you guys. I've known Luis quite a few years. He started off doing his single family, but look at what he's doing for other people. He's now letting you build your portfolio so that you can
Right.
have a great retirement and invest in other things and put your kids through school. Luis is a great person to work with. So if you are ever thinking about investing and you'd like your money in multifamily, really connect with Luis. He's the guy that's going to make sure he protects you. That's all I have
Thank you,
to say
Peggy.
about you, Luis. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for sharing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peggy.
Thank
So,
you.
I don't know if you guys, if we've talked about it before, but Peggy is also in that mastermind that Luis and I are in. So we have a group of trusted people here, and we call them our buoys, the people who raise us up instead of dragging us down. So Luis and Peggy are both buoys for me. Terrell, you're up.
Daryl,
Terrell,
Daryl.
I do that every week. Sorry.
I know. So I'm going to be putting on, because I teach the pre-licensing courses for the state of California at the community colleges. So I'm going to be putting my teacher hat on. But interestingly enough, this morning I was listening to a book summary on givers and takers. And so we tend to fall in one of those two categories. And it may change depending on the, what we're involved in, So, I mean, obviously there's some, middle road people, but, some of us are givers, others takers. So just something to keep in mind, that, just because we're some way, other people aren't that way. The other thing that popped up, and it's partly what Peggy was saying, was especially when you get into the creative financing. So you're not bringing in a bank loan, but you're taking over a loan, or any kind of seller financing and so on. Educate yourself. This is just because you have a real estate license doesn't make you, an expert in all areas. And I mean, I saw that, in the high short sale, these agents doing short sales, and it's like they had no clue. So just because we have a license doesn't make us an expert in all the areas of our business, which rolls into attorneys. As an example, a comparison, attorneys and doctors, you don't go to a dermatologist for a heart problem. It's the same thing with attorneys. Attorneys have their own, I think Debbie, you were saying, they have their own lanes. And so just because someone is a entertainment contract attorney doesn't make them a good real estate contract attorney. And just as a PS to that, it's really great if you can find one and have them as part of your team. And because the things with contracts, of course, as soon as it can be interpreted more than one way, attorneys love that, because that means there's a lawsuit waiting to happen. So you again, like Luis, you were saying, being very specific in the contract. So there's no vagueness, so that it could be, well, I interpret it this way. Well, I interpret it this way. And, no. Okay, now we need to change the wording. Well, this is how we do it. I had a new builder tell me that. Well, this is how we do it. I don't care how you do it. This is vague. And of course my clients, followed me and my line of thinking. But it's just, we tend to kind of, all realtors are not the same. As we know, I always say my people, not all of us are the same. We have different skill sets. Some of us want to stick a sign in the yard, put on the MLS, call it a day. Others of us, such as myself, the giver, is a helicopter broker, so I'm on top of everything, I don't care, so and so that's just again, so having a good attorney, but having a good real estate contract attorney, be specific again, is I think an ace in our pockets. And it's just good to have one of those people that you can just call up and say, hey, this is what it says, what do you think? That sounds like a lawsuit. Okay. So
Yeah, great point. All right. Thanks, Terrell. Jim, did you have a question?
Comment. Luis, thanks for sharing. Nobody likes to admit they've got screwed out of some money. That's happened to me. Up here in Massachusetts, our contractors are required to be licensed by the state. I'm not sure what it's like down in Texas. And one thing you may want to investigate is something called a completion bond. It's an insurance-like product. It's sold by insurance agents, commercial insurance agents. If you go talking about completion bond, if you're involved with a project, like buildings and stuff like that, what it does, they underwrite you, the person that's taking out the bond, and the person that's doing the project that you are curious about. And if the person walks away from the project, you submit a claim to the bond company, and after a little bit of investigation, they'll pay you, and then they will go and pursue the person that walked away from the project, like this fellow that you handed the 10 grand over to. They'd go after him to get that money back.
Just one quick second, I gotta put a message
That's
in.
that's great. Okay, who is
that is good to
unmuted?
know. That is good to know, because I didn't know that.
That you can find that, just go on a web search, completion bonds, any type of bond, fidelity bond. I used to be an insurance agent, you can imagine.
That is gold. That is such gold. Thank you for reminding me about that.
Yes, you want to protect yourself, and bonds are cheap. Bonds are really cheap because they don't, quite frankly, a lot of them don't get called in, and so you want to think about that. Get yourself a good commercial agent.
Completion bond. Okay, good to know.
Okay,
Excellent.
you bet.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, Lisa.
I have a quick statement and then a question. So I think that what it also proves as a cautionary tale is that Lewis's heart was, okay, if I shook on it, I'm going to make good, and just automatically transfer that to somebody else. And I think that's a cautionary tale for everybody, whether in real estate or any kind of business transaction, even if it's family and friends. it's business, and business needs to have everything in writing and a contract. So I think that's something that we need to bring up. But Louis, did you just assume that there's no recourse because you didn't have the contract, or did you actually go and maybe ask an attorney to see if there was anything that you can do?
I asked an attorney. That's one thing that I did. I also called the guy, and I actually met with the guy after. And he even said, you know what, you can sue me because, I screwed up. And I was like, it's going to take time out of my day. So for me, when I make mistakes, I just own them and I keep driving forward. For me, I can't be just driving, looking at the rear view mirror to look at this thing, that's how I look at it. So I said, if I just turn around and just stop and keep digging on this, it's only $10,000. Whereas if I just write it off as a loss and just focus on what's coming, looking forward and going forward, right? That's, for me, that's better.
Yeah,
And
no, I
maybe
agree.
for you or not.
You're gonna lose more time
Yeah,
thinking and doing all that, so you're gonna lose more money
exactly.
in the end. I just was just wondering if you had just come to the conclusion, or you did ask somebody.
No, I mean, I did ask.
Yeah,
I did ask
okay.
if it was going to be a difficult thing to do, which it was, because I didn't sign anything and I didn't have any contract or anything whatsoever. He suggested, you know what, you're going to lose the money. I mean, it's going to take you more money to try to recover this money, and eventually I don't think you're going to recover it anyway. You may win.
Have more lawyer fees probably, right?
Right. Lawyer fees was
could you
one.
ever put a what's it called? Review, like, is there any recourse? Does he have a license? Is there anything that you could put like a side note on there, if I'm explaining
No,
it
he was just an
correctly?
investor, so he didn't have anything that I could tarnish.
Okay.
Even. Yeah, no.
Yeah, so
And
sorry.
while you ask about stuff like that, and I know this is going to be a polarizing point of view, but I personally, even when I have really bad experiences, I will tell the person, but I don't make a point to broadcast it everywhere. And I think that that's it. When we make a point of really being ugly about any kind of review or anything like that, I think that also shines a poor light on us that we're being so negative.
True.
So
True.
so I definitely agree that talking to the person and letting them know, and taking care of it and protecting yourself moving on. But I would just really be careful about what kind of reviews that you put out there. Because you're in business too, and I just think it makes us look bad. So, Jackie, did you have another question?
Well, it's more of a comment. So I really appreciate Luis talking about it. And I know it's hard to admit mistakes, especially in front of a bunch of strangers, right? So, but we've all had it. We've all done it. We've all
made many more.
where
So
we
don't worry
think,
about
oh
it.
my gosh, how could I be so dumb, right? How could I have done that? But I wanted to say two things, and this is, a situation as like experience as a realtor. I'm not giving anyone legal advice. That's my disclaimer. So don't call me on it. But basically, there's two things I wanted to mention. If you're going to be like loaning money, one of the best ways to, in some ways, protect yourself from lawyers' fees. Okay. If you don't really have the funds to hire an attorney, which you should if you're doing deals, but if you, for some reason can't, check out what the in your state, what the small claims court limit is. And that way, if something happens and you need to go to court with someone, you can represent yourself. People have lawyers represent them in small claims, but small claims is usually just people there. And a lot of times have a mediator, and a mediator will, help negotiate between the two parties. So you can come to some kind of an agreement. If if that doesn't work, then you go and before the judge. But that's kind of an important thing. I think in North Carolina, it's like 7,000 or 7,500. So not a small amount, but not a huge amount. And then the other thing I was going to suggest is, and this is just smart practice for everybody in life, for everything. If you have a conversation with somebody on the phone or on a Zoom and you haven't recorded it, because some states you can do that, other states you have to disclose. But if you have a conversation, one of the best ways to protect yourself in business is just to send them an email, giving a summary of what you discussed. And then at the end of the email, you can often say, if I've gotten anything wrong, or you want to add anything to this conversation, please email back with the correction, or please, email me back and let me know. And that way, at the very least, you have something in writing. It's called a contemporaneous statement. So that conversation happened and then you wrote it down, right? So your memory is probably better. And that's a really good way to protect yourself, not only with business, but clients, anything in life, because when you have that conversation, if you do it right away, you're going to remember better what was said. And then you're giving the other party an opportunity to tell you if they didn't hear it that way. So then you can get a clarification. So it's just a good trick for people to get used to doing. And I do that all the time. Thanks.
Thank you, Jackie. Appreciate that. Jenny, did you have a question?
Yes, hi. I don't have a question, but I just something to add to what Louis shared with us. Well, he's lucky. I mean, comparing to what I'm trying to share a little bit, I would say that the 10 grand would be considered life lesson. That would be my takeaway. Even though you have a promissory note and that kind of thing, they still trying to screw me. I mean, they did screw me over, actually. They filed bankruptcy, so you will get nothing out of, you cannot get the blood out of the stone, right?
Gotcha.
So, and then on the other hand, so there's a life lesson I learned more than, 30,000. With that said, and just want to send our good message to, all realtors here, that there is some bad people out there, especially flippers. Well, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be judgmental, but they looking to a realtor who is trying to make some quick money, like so-called quote unquote partner with the realtor, right? And they're trying to get, okay, you have put up the money, I do this, and I am the remodeler, blah blah, similar to what Louis shared. But the thing is that somehow, for some reason, some of my colleague agents got tricked, even though the note has been recorded, whatever. But anyway, long story short, just don't be greedy. That's the word I want to say. Sometimes people can be short-sighted.
But you know what, Jenny, let me just touch on a point that you're talking about, right? It's not about being greedy or not. Being greedy is good if you're trying to advance in life. Greedy for yourself, right? And not for anybody else. As long as you don't do anything stupid or illegal, that's good, because you're actually propelling yourself forward. Because if you're saying don't do any deals, that's also, that doesn't really help you. What I would focus on, right, is the fact that we are trusting people to do what they're saying that they will do, and they won't do it. Why? Because some people have no integrity, and they will scam you, right? So I always say, look at the investor more than the investment. Look at the investor more than the investment. So meaning, don't worry about, don't focus so much on having the great attorney that is going to fight for me, because that's going to be after the fact. It's just like, trying to get the best cure for cancer. The best cure for cancer is not getting cancer, So don't go through that route. Just have that before, like prevent cancer. Don't wait and say like, you know what, if I get cancer, I'm going to do this and that. No, don't get cancer. So it's the same here. Don't invest with the wrong person. That is the focus that I wanted to give you.
That's a great point. Yeah,
exactly. Just look at the investor, not at the investment. A lot of people get bogged down on the numbers, but then, they lose money because, they have this promissory note, as you said, and you have recourse or whatever, but it's a judgment that you're not going to collect on. So don't get cancer. Just do that before.
Great point. Okay, one last question, Orkim, so that we can get into our breakout rooms. So what you got, buddy?
Yeah, it's more of a comment, or I guess feedback. I'm a seasoned investor out in New Jersey, been doing this for a long time. And my thoughts are a little different than some of the thoughts I'm hearing in the room. I think that it's important to have a strong legal team, a strong lawyer on your side to work through issues and concerns. I've lost a lot of money. I made a lot of money. I had one guy, I paid him like 12,000 cash up front for windows. 5, 6 windows started being leaky, and I was like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. And I still had a balance of about probably 50,000 to just rest the windows because we pay as you go. I had my lawyer get involved. We hit the guy in the head a couple of times. We got away from him because I had a lawyer that able to get out the deal. But it cost me money still. 12,000 cash that one time, lost money. But I think it's important to have a strong lawyer supporting you. Also, I think it makes a difference to do the Yelp, to do the reviews. Because I started doing reviews on this guy, and his response was like, leave me the hell alone. His lawyer contacted my lawyer and said, yo, leave us alone. You know what I'm saying? What can we do to make this guy go away? So it makes a difference sometimes. Another example, and I'll just share one more just to make it quick. I had the timeshare for a long time. And timeshares, I don't know how many people have it. Everybody had a timeshare. I was like paying like the insurance, every year the taxes or whatever for the insurance. I couldn't get away from it, and I never used it. Out in Florida, and I contacted a company called Wesley, and those guys said, "Hey, everything is do this review, do this review." And I just followed all the instructions. It had a lot to do with reviews. I no longer have the timeshare. They made it go away, and it cost me probably about $5,000, $6,000. If not, I'll probably be 20, 30, 40 into the rest of my life. So I think those reviews make a difference, depending on how you use it. Not saying all the time, but it makes a difference sometimes. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you for your input. Everybody has a different opinion, and there you go. All right, so we're going to open up the breakout rooms, and I'm going to ask you to share in your breakout room what is one quick mistake that you've made that you can share and help someone else here in the group prevent from making moving forward. So something just quick. And here we go. Everybody opening all the breakout rooms. You guys go to your rooms. Hopefully everybody will have their camera on and participate in the breakout rooms. All right, you guys, time for two people. Tell me something super cool that you learned in your breakout room.
This is Peggy. I learned that no matter what your age is, you are always curious about how you can learn something new.
Love that, Peggy. Who else? Come on, nobody else learned anything in their breakout room? I thought you guys were sharing tales with each other to... Jose, go for it. You're muted, Jose.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
So I shared, but somebody else shared the same thing I did. In the state of Texas, we have a hotline that we can call and check on advice from legal.
Okay. Is
Yeah, I
that a
would
free
think that
hotline?
most commissions have a hotline like that. So if you don't know what the hotline number is, call your real estate commission or your broker in charge and ask them, because in North Carolina, we have the same thing. In South Carolina, that you can call and talk to legal at the commission. So
Correct.
go ahead and make sure you do that. That's an important number to have, honestly. Should be on
Excellent.
speed dial on your phone.
All right. We're going to put a cap on this one. Actually, it's 5 minutes till. Anybody else got a last comment they want to leave us with? Something they learned that was super cool?
My name is David Hyun. I'd like to make a last comment. There's one simple method or technique to have recourse against an investor that steals money from you. Before you ever give that investor any money, just say, oh, by the way, my real estate attorney would like to have a copy of your driver's license so that we can verify that everything that you said is true and correct. May I have your driver's license and make a copy so that I can give it to my real estate lawyer? If he refuses to give you that driver's license, you stop doing it. With that just simple technique of having the driver's license, you have the ability to have recourse against that individual.
That's good advice,
All right.
David. Thank you.
Nice. Love it.
Yeah, that's a don't get in trouble to start, right? You're probably going to wean out at least 50%.
If you're dealing with a investor that is on the shady side of doing business, they know that as soon as they give you their driver's license, you have the opportunity to turn that over to the local sheriff's department, local police department, and file a complaint for grand theft, okay? That's your recourse, is grand theft. You can go to claims court, you can do whatever it can, but you have recourse. This is not legal advice. This is just straightforward, practical advice. When you go to your bank and you make a deposit or you do a transfer, the bank always asks for a copy for your driver's license. This is standard practice throughout the financial industry. Banks will require your driver's license. They ask me if I make a deposit, they ask me driver's license. So standard practice. I'm not giving any legal advice. I'm just giving straightforward practical advice.
Excellent. Thank you,
Great.
David. Great point.
So
Okay.
Debbie, before you end, don't forget about the chat.
I was just going to say that, Jackie.
Okay.
For if you have not put your contact information in the chat yet, please do so now. I'm the one who says this, and then every week I forget. So I am doing it also because I want you guys to be able to find me too. All right, so all the information, the Facebook group is in the chat, the education platform, we have a school group, we have the YouTube channel where you can subscribe to get the replays of all of our meetings, and the newsletter in case you're not already on the newsletter. All of that is in my contact information. If you are on your phone and cannot download the chat, make sure you tell Danny, because Danny is our chat master and he's gonna send you off the chat. I know he's here somewhere.
Yep,
Where is
I'm
he
right
at?
here.
Danny, there you go. There's Danny. So if you need the chat, please make sure that your email is in the chat and you tell Danny that you need him to send you the chat. So,
Yep.
all right, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Luis, thank you for being willing to share your story and help us all learn from your mistake. I would much rather learn from your $10,000 mistake than making that same mistake myself. So I appreciate that. I'm sure we all do. And yeah. All right, you guys, wonderful to have you here. We'll see you again next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Thanks so much.